Kevin McCarthy trying to become Speaker of the House. Obviously, it's a lot of political jockeying, and the Democrats are having some fun with it. It's some talk for all the talk shows that follow politics, but does it have some real-world consequences for all of us who are citizens and also for Wall Street?
Yes. Good morning, Frank. So, yeah, I think down the line in the third quarter, what Congress is sending clear signals that we're in for a bumpy ride. So two things are going to happen in the third quarter, a second part of the year. One is that the debt ceiling is going to have to be raised, and the other is that Congress is going to have to approve next year's fiscal spending plans. And so we are looking at a kind of repeat of 2011, a standoff over the debt ceiling. I think Republicans are clearly signaling through the chaos that's ongoing in the House right now that that's going to be a very tough vote. And there's still a lot of raw feelings about how the omnibus bill that passed a couple of weeks ago was handled. And so getting the spending bills across the line by September 30th, when the fiscal year ends, is unclear. So we have kind of a double whammy coming up in the latter part of the year, a standoff over the debt ceiling and the potential for a government shutdown.
All right, two very serious issues there. Let's get back to this race for Speaker of the House. So Hakeem Jeffries got the most votes on the first go-round. He's not going to be the Speaker of the House. We all know that. But
right.
If McCarthy decides to withdraw, what are the other who are the other alternatives, and what does that mean about the future of the Congress in this next session?
It's a great question. I don't think anybody knows. I suspect the next nominee from Republicans would be the majority leader-elect, Steve Scalise from Louisiana. I don't think it's a guarantee that Republicans would support him for a couple of reasons. One is I think a couple of the holdouts against McCarthy could also hold out against Scalise. And I think there is a group of McCarthy supporters that are so frustrated by the process and the holdouts that they may withhold their votes from Scalise for the time being. And then you move on to somebody like a Jim Jordan, who I don't think can get enough votes from moderate Republicans. We could go down beyond those two names to a couple others, maybe the incoming chairman of the House Financial Services Committee, Patrick McHenry from North Carolina. So if it gets beyond McCarthy, I think it gets very unpredictable, as the whole process has kind of been unpredictable. But there's no clear front runner after McCarthy.
Yeah, obviously it creates an issue when you need a leader of the Congress, also for succession to the presidency, other issues like that. So I used to be a big House of Cards fan. I've seen all that drama on the show. So I'm going to lay out something that might be House of Cards fantasy. Is there any possibility for a bipartisan Speaker of the House, some type of compromise person?
No,
that was quick.
Yeah, I mean, this is Hollywood stuff, right? This is Hollywood and dorm room debate stuff. I probably, if I was back in college or law school, I'd be sitting around with my classmates, kind of talking about this, probably over a beer or two. It doesn't work that way. It did work in Pennsylvania. I will acknowledge that the Pennsylvania legislature came up with a compromise candidate. But I think the two parties are just so far apart. It's tough to see realistically how you get to 218 votes cobbled together from both sides. There just aren't enough moderates in the Congress from either party to come up with, the fantasy bipartisan compromise candidate.
All right, let's forget about it. It's a little bit too early for a few beers, Brian. Before we let you go, right now the market's just kind of shaking off all this political drama down in D.C. with the Speaker of the House. Is there a point where the markets start to react to this uncertainty?
I think over the summer, as the debt ceiling debate starts to clarify, if you go back to 2011, the last I think it's the best comp for what we're about to go through. 2011 market had a relatively good start to the year. It wasn't really till July that investors started paying attention to the upcoming cliff of the debt ceiling. We don't have an exact date yet for that. We don't know. It's a cash flow issue. It's not a date certain. But the Bipartisan Policy Center and others who try to track this, they have the X date, the date at which Treasury will exhaust what they call extraordinary measures to stay under the debt ceiling. That's probably going to be in the third quarter. So I think it's the summer. So maybe we're going to get to, sell in May and go away. And that's going to be good advice for investors as you go into what could be a potentially rocky summer.